Welcome everyone to the White Cloaks rewatch. This is Dane Bornhold, your favorite drunk meme generator, joined by Pips and Alex, also from the now nuked White Cloak subreddit. Sorry, we've all been drinking quite heavily.
It's the
What
only
our
way to watch the
motivation?
show.
Yes. Our motivation here is to do a rewatch and a rewatch review. We are trying to find out whether or not the show could possibly get any worse after seeing it another time. We are indebted by so many other people online, from our Reddit, um, from YouTube, for informing us about the show and its shortcomings. We're going to do a couple quick shout outs here. Um, Everybody who was a member of the White Cloak subreddit, obviously Pips and I and Alex, to a lesser extent, he came in a little bit later, read a ton of posts. The Night's Watch, we have to basically give a salute to them. They were probably the largest channel to take a negative view of the show. Isparu, who has grown substantially because the guy has done fantastic analysis of the Rings of Power that's coming up. But he got his start taking out the Wheel of Time TV show, and we love him. Prophet of the Dragon, who is a member of White Cloaks and a member of our Discord now. The guy's been doing awesome videos. If you don't know about him, check out his videos. Take a like, take a subscribe. Salty Texas Sea, and numerous others who are basically providing critical content of this horrible, horrible show. Now, our ambition here, Pips and Alex and myself, is again to do a rewatch. We're going to do a bit of a deeper dive than others have done. We are going to try and do 1 minute of show review for every 3 minutes of our review. So keeping these episodes down to a manageable time of about an hour. Hopefully we can get through one episode every 3 episodes of our yakking. But with that being said, let me pass it over to Alex, who can introduce himself and his background and what he hopes to bring to this deeper dive review.
Thanks, Dane. Like Dan said, my name's Alex. My interest in the show was primarily from the film side of things. I've read the books, but I'm nowhere near as educated on it as Dane and Pips. But I am very passionate about sort of the filming aspects and the writing aspects of the show. And this show was just so bad that it honestly kept me up at night. Like I can't fathom how someone being paid massive sums of money was able to make something so horrible. So honestly, that's almost where my passion for this project lies, in that way. Pips, how about you?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction from the two of you guys. Dane and I sort of back and forth on White Cloaks for a while, and Alex, I've enjoyed getting to know you. So to introduce myself, yep, I am Pips. My pronouns are horse, and horse self. And my personal background is really just that I am an avid fan of the series. I know this has been played out with a lot of people related to this series, but I actually have read the series multiple times. Probably not as many times as Dane. We can we can get into that one offline. Um, but let's see. I mean, I reread the series for probably the fourth or fifth time, at least before this thing came out, expecting an adaptation that I was really going to love, something that was a big part of my I'd say honestly formative years from at least kind of junior high on. And I'm in another rewatch now, or rather a reread, as Dane called it, a palate cleanse. I think I'm through Fires of Heaven. Um, so
I think my
this
technical term was brain enema.
I didn't want to go quite that far, but yeah, I think that is what you called it. So, this series has been a big part of my interest in reading, my interest in fantasy. I first started doing my own writing because of this series, this IP. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's really been just a big part of my sort of background experience life as a reader and as a fantasy reader. And I think, like a lot of us, I just really was looking forward to this and was really blindsided with what Alex brought up there. That something that was this big, this much name recognition, this much of a sort of colossal IP within the fantasy world and just within literature generally, and the amount of money they spent on this, and somehow we managed to end up where we are. So happy to be here. Looking forward to going through this review. And yeah, I think unless somebody's got something else to add, I think back to you, Dan.
All right. Well, Alex, you've got control of the pause button, but let's kind of let the viewers know what what our ambition is for this first review. But with that kind of 1-to-3 ratio, we're going to try and get through the first 20 minutes of this episode. Now, we're going to clarify right up front here, full spoilers. Alex and Pips and I, we've all read the book series. We've read this, some of us multiple times. We've all seen the show. There is no such thing as a spoiler to us. We are
I have
probably going
not
to try and
finished episode 8. Worth pointing out, I made it a portion of the way in
Oh,
and literally
okay.
physically couldn't continue. So read the book series, but I am
That-
actually going to be, when we get there, I'm going to be experiencing it for the first time for all of your pleasure.
All
God, I
right,
can't wait.
Pips, that's a very, very good point because I don't know how bad you think it was, but whatever you think, it's worse. But we'll get there eventually. But for any viewers, if we have one or two, maybe one day we can dream. If you don't want to get spoiled, or if you don't, if you don't want to get spoiled, what are you doing here? We're just going
Probably
to
stop now.
assume, yeah, from the outset, a high level of show and book knowledge, and please forgive us. Okay, we're gonna spoil shit no matter what because half the fun of this stuff is pointing out how they've completely screwed up things for later on. And with that, I think Alex, can you lead us off? You got control of the pause button, but let's get this shit show started.
Absolutely. Alrighty.
Broken. Many, many years ago, men who were born with great power believed they could cage darkness
Ugh.
itself.
Alright, I like that we're
Just
The arrogance.
3 lines in and men are already at fault.
The seas
Here we go, Sons of Anarchy with the freaking gloves.
And the women
I do like it. I mean,
were left to pick
the
up
ring is coming on twice for some reason. She's got an elven knife from Lord of the Rings. That's
K-
great.
k-
the
that-
It's also
Hey.
on the wrong hip if you pay attention.
Alex, can you pause for a sec?
Absolutely.
That's true.
No, there's
Alex
All
did a really great breakdown on like all of like cinema sins of everything that's going on here. So I think
Oh.
yeah, hit it.
So the first thing that I want to point out of this, other than the fact that she had a ring fucking on before she put it on, and here's the other thing, we're going to swear a lot, and we are going to get drunker and really fucking loaded by the end of this thing because I think all of us has got something uncorked. Alex, what are you drinking right now?
I have currently a Glenfiddich 12.
Better
And
than me.
I got myself some Jefferson's Ocean, if you've ever had it. They're not endorsing us. I am endorsing them. Great bourbon.
And while I'm known for being a brandy aficionado, I don't want to die midway through this just by the volume I'm going to be drinking. So I am on wine. And while, you might say, well, Dane Bordenhall drinking wine. Sorry,
Say
wine
it ain't
is
so.
well, brandy is nothing but a fortified wine, essentially, because it would spoil on long voyages. So it's still the same root. So I think there's some defense there. Anyways, if we become incomprehensible by the end of this, it's because we are drinking heavily, just so everybody knows. But the thing I wanted to point out about this fucking prologue right now, other than the fact that every line of it, every statement made in here is contrary to the lore of the books, that little fat man statuette. Did you guys remember seeing that? She wraps it up in her
Yeah.
cloth.
Yep.
Yeah. That becomes the big thing at the end of the whole season. That's supposedly a sa'angreal that can magnify your power 100-fold.
And for people who don't understand, the Fat Man Angreal in the books is something that Rand finds for himself.
In the Stone of Tear, book 4.
Yep, in the Stone of
Yep.
Tear, and it only works for men. So this idea that she has it but doesn't know if it's a boy or a girl. I guess she's just walking around with male sa'angreals in her pocket. I mean, like as you do, like I would
Not
do that.
First, according to the lore, she wouldn't be able to identify it. Second, why the fuck would she carry it around if she thinks that the dragon is a boy or a girl? Third, if she knows it's for a boy or a male channeler, then she knew all along that it was only for a male channel. If she could use it, if it was for either, why the fuck didn't she use it at all? So the only thing here that makes any sense is that you have an ungendered magic system and you've changed Sa'angreal or any of these devices from the lore into a single-use magic item, which is fucking retarded. Anyways,
See, I think the funnier part about this is she's talking about um, whether or not it's a boy or a girl. So she has the magical nuke that we believe only works for men. What we're about to see in the next scene is that men who can channel go crazy. So the idea of giving the magical nuke to a man at this point is absolutely insane.
Man has been born again.
Yeah.
We don't know
Yeah.
where, whom,
Also, I
if
should
he was
point out that
reborn
we
as a girl
do,
or a boy.
interesting fact
Yeah.
here, we get to see the only 2 rooms in all of the White Tower in this opening scene. So, I mean, really good use of set, right? They
And,
used it here, and then they used it, in episode 5 and 6. So, I mean, that's good.
and here's the other thing. We'll allude to it kind of going forward, but apparently, because we've seen, and this is the benefit of doing a rewatch as opposed to as this came out. But that whole leaked script of the original kind of Raganor. Let's keep to proper White Cloak's pronunciations of certain individuals. It's Raganor, and when we want to rip on her, it's Masara. Everybody else, miniature dark friends. We don't need to mention them, but but Raganor's initial script didn't have this prologue. It was a Guitarra Moroso placenta partial birth abortion scene that probably got kiboshed by the corporate heads at Amazon. Um, and this one was probably filmed a little bit later. And it was really Alex that pointed this out, that the fact that that prologue was probably initially filmed and then kiboshed uh, led to this particular prologue and the arrogance and all the other shitty scenes. And that's what also led to multiple inconsistencies later on in the show, which we'll get to.
Honestly, this is where it's almost hard to keep our 3-to-1 rule because there's just so much to break down with how bad that prologue is. I guess the first thing that jumps out to me immediately is if you are doing a fantasy show, you know who the giants of the genre are when it comes to, screens. You know it's Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. So if you are
Not
going to start your show with your sort of ethereal, all powerful woman magic user giving sort of an overarching explanation of where the world is, you know you're going to get compared to Fellowship of the Ring. Okay? And, Moraine just ain't Galadriel. Rosamund Pike just isn't Kate Blanchett. So why would
Can,
you intentionally set yourself up to be compared to something that even on your best day you know you can't compete with? It's
can I just
inviting
also point out?
comparisons.
Can I just also point out that when you're talking about inviting comparisons, the most clear comparison is the introduction from the books. So not only was it not the prologue, which let's be honest is mortal sin #1 of the series, right?
It's the best prologue
But
of
it
any
also,
fantasy. I'm going to go so far as to say it is the best prologue of any book ever. Period. It is incredible.
I mean, it's got to be top listing, honorable mention for sure. I mean, I can't say I've read every book ever, but I agree with you that it is definitely in the conversation. And
do you boys
but I
want
was
to
even
know
meaning,
when I first read that prologue?
Hit
Yeah,
us.
I read it. So this is where we're going to get into time trouble, and hopefully, like 3-to-1 is our ambition, but at the same time, stopping this fucking replay and talking over it and reviewing it means, yeah, we are reviewing this stuff. Amazon, this is fair use. We are not.
try to stop us.
Yeah, this is not some backhanded, like anybody who wants to watch this frickin' show and decides to do it on YouTube via us, like they've got the $5.99 Target discount DVD bin that they can look at. But okay, this prologue, I read it on an airplane back in 1999. And let me fill up my wine glass here. And I read it, and I was like, what the fuck did I just read? It was too crazy for me. I had to basically put the book away and not look at it for a day or two. And then the craziest thing about this prologue is after I had read all the way through Path of Daggers, because it was 1999 and Path of Daggers was out, and then I went online and started looking at fan theories, was just the amount of additional info that was buried in it. That's there for people who read it
actually what I was
a second time.
When you're talking about how strong it was the first time, is that it holds up. I mean, like this show is. Yeah, I mean, we're subjecting ourselves to this, but this show has borderline no rewatchability. But as somebody who's in the middle of a reread right now, I mean, every time you reread this series and every time you reread that prologue, you get more out of it. Like the depth and interconnectedness of the
Absolutely.
world that we were given, and this is what we got instead. And the point that I was going to say about the prologue is like they gave us that whole thing about the arrogance. They didn't even give us, the classic Wheel of Time intro of, it being a beginning but not the beginning. Like that was
A
served
wind
up to,
stirred in wherever,
that
and
was
though there are
served
no
up on a
beginnings.
platter, and if they didn't want to
Oh.
do the prologue, that's fine. But like if you're going to do a voiceover for the Wheel of Time and you don't do that voiceover, like what are you doing?
You get it at the end of this episode, and
Which
I
is just sad at
disagree
that
with
point.
you. I disagree with you that not doing the prologue was acceptable. There was no prologue that was acceptable other than that one. And
Well, I didn't say that there was one. I did say Mortal Sin 1 for the series was the fact that you're watching this opening and you're not watching the creation of Dragonmount.
see, the thing that we're about to watch this next scene, and one of the huge, or one of the plot points that the production team is going for here is it is trying to convince you that male channelers go crazy and are super dangerous, and they
Yeah.
fail.
If only
at
there
it.
was a scene in the books.
If only they were dangerous in this fucking scene, like for crying out loud.
Yeah, just lay
Stop,
down and die
don't
like
hurt
a
him.
puppy.
Yeah, he
Like
just
that.
lays on the ground.
I'll be good. Ah! Like,
See,
All right, I think we need to hit play on this. There's not a whole lot to talk through until we get to some of the dialogue of the run sequence anyway.
that's true. Now, it's
I will
funny,
say,
Dan, you
as we
talk
go
about
into this, I just want you guys to think about, can anyone tell me where this is happening in
No.
the world? What setting is this?
What?
Like, they could have dressed these people in costumes that would have been recognizable, and instead, I literally have no idea.
no, this
Like,
looks
those
like
people
Conan.
look like Dothraki. That's who those people are.
You
Dothraki.
just said what I said. What I was gonna say. They look like Dothraki, and then the red Aja coming through. None of them in dresses. They all look like fucking airbenders in red robes. Like,
Oh, we
my
will get into some airbending. We will get into some freaking airbending.
No, but
Here we
okay.
go. We're about to have a second here. There we go.
Ah!
The first time. So channeling happens, and it isn't visible on screen. No airbending.
What?
And this was
But that's
this
fine.
was this was the moment where Ragnar was thinking, hey, maybe I'll do something consistent, and then decided instead to ruin the series.
Maybe.
dude.
Like we got to remember this is probably a reshoot, right? Because he wanted to do his placenta abortion. Yeah, exactly. Guitarra Moroso.
Oh, there's no one
prologue.
there.
See,
Oh, goodness.
A Guitarra Morosa prologue would have been the C- choice of a prologue. Like
Also,
that would
let's
have
just
been
talk about the fact that this guy
Anything
crazy,
other than the actual prologue would have been a C- in prologue.
yeah. If you
Let's
had
just
done
talk
the
about this
basics,
This guy is seeing like a fully formed human, but later we see Logain is seeing this weird like black shadow creature. So I mean,
But the madness can manifest itself differently.
sure.
Here we go. This is when you touch it.
There
you
are
make it
no
filthy.
rules.
dude.
No. This is the first hint that the taint is actually toxic masculinity
Yep,
on
there we go.
a shared power between men and women. That's important.
First time we see the ring pops come in different flavors, right there.
Oh, fuck. Don't get me started. And here we've got, again, Moraine. She sees the vileness. She doesn't give a shit. She just decides, oh, that's fine. I don't have any leverage on Moraine, Ladrin in the future at all.
That is actually the only time that her character has, I think, some actual Aes Sedai composure. She's watching the vileness, smooth-faced, nothing. No, really telegraphing
it can't
nothing.
be.
That's
It can't be him.
because when this was filmed, she's watching a different scene. This is a recompilation.
When this was filmed, she was in a soundstage looking at nothing.
That's exactly what's happening here, because this was done afterwards when some Sony Amazon executive asked the question, well, why is Moraine going to the Two Rivers? And I have to imagine the entire group of production team went, well, it's in the book. And they were like, well, we can't.
This is the conversation we had before, and I think Dane really brought a good wrap-up. Dane brought a really good wrap-up of, what is Moraine doing in the Two Rivers in the show versus what is she doing in the books? So, Dane, I think you, as the encyclopedic knowledge of lore over here, if you just want to let us know, what that difference is.
Oh, you're fucking killing me because I've had so much wine now that I kind of need to do a bathroom break again. But in essence, yeah, like in the books, and there's a whole fucking extra book about this, right? New Spring, which kind of details the whole background as to how she did her whole her whole plotting, finding the dragon was her life's mission. She was present when the foretelling happened from Guitar Moroso, so she knew precisely when and where the dragon, a male, because 3,000 years of prophecy did not have this gender ambiguity. She knew exactly when and where he was born, and she spent her whole fucking life trying to find that out. New Spring, she goes on a whole bunch of false leads. She meets Lan through that. She has adventures, etc. And then finally, because the pattern needed Rand to grow up without outside influence, she finally
Needed him to
arrives
grow up in a nice, moral, upstanding community, which obviously we can't have.
with a father, Tam Althor, who is the true hero of the whole frickin' series. That was one of the best frickin' comments on White Cloaks. If people were around, I honestly forget who wrote it. It was a comment, but there was a debate over who was the best character from the Wheel of Time, and someone. If you end up watching this, please comment. We'll have you on as a guest reviewer. But it was one of the best comments with substantiation ever posted on that sub. He basically said Tam was the greatest character in the Wheel of Time, and precisely why was he raised Rand al'Thor, the Dragon Reborn, properly. He raised him better than the dragon was raised back in the Age of Legends. It was an epic post.
As
Yeah,
a
and I
single
mean,
parent.
Luz Theron even acknowledges, why is Rand in a position to fix the world? Luz Theron just straight up says it, I think, at one point, like, hey, you were just, raised better. You're better with people. People respect you because you respect them, and that all stems from Tam. So,
Yeah.
watching
All
the
right.
disrespect for
Give
Tam
me
in
guys
this
a minute,
show is
I'll be back.
disgusting.
All right, so it sounds like Alex is saying that Luz Theron might actually have had some of the arrogance, and that might be the difference. But I'm not willing to give the show credit for that.
No, not remotely.
I think Dane might be stepping out to refill his wine/brandy. I think we can probably roll a little bit to get back on timeline, though.
Oh God, yeah, we're at 28 minutes, and we're 3 minutes and 20 seconds into the video. God, I hate this scene. Only the best audio replacement for this show. God, this cut is horrendous. Oh my God.
I do love this part here. So this implies that she has some knowledge of like what they're doing. Like she apparently has some idea of who she's looking for, what age, that kind of stuff. And then here's the throwaway line: rumors of Fort Taveran, which is just like, should we make her smart? Nah, she heard a rumor. She was in a bar and somebody said something, and so she's in the Two Rivers now. Like, as you do.
I am fascinated by the implications of this line. I could go on for hours about it. The first one that I have is, okay, based on the books, we know that the Taveran wreak havoc on the world around them. So the idea that there are four random
before we even go into that, I think two things are worth noting. One, what is a Taveran? And two, the fact that the four Taveran here, realistically three, right? None of them were Taveran before this, right? The pattern picks people up and drops them off at stages in the weaving, right? So they weren't until the events of the story.
That's a bit of a that's not necessarily clear from the lore.
We know that people, weren't randomly getting married, and coins weren't randomly falling on their edges, and pigeons weren't colliding in flight. Like, we know the Two Rivers was a sensible place where the laws of physics applied until a bunch of Trollocs showed up and ruined everything.
But this is where it's ambiguous. So in your defense to that, as far as the timing, is in the lore it's stated that Taveran, in several instances where people are Taveran, they aren't that their whole life. The counterpoint would be that if you had 3 Taveran in a village like Emmons Field, and let's say they were Taveran from the time they were born, they would be course correcting the pattern from the time they were born. So you would not be seeing the typical Taveran effects based on proximity.
I'm willing to concede that there's potentially lore academic debate on this point, which is probably outside of what our timing will allow.
See, the problem with this line is
it's impossible.
It's not even until episode 8 that I think they even bothered to explain what a Taveran is in the show.
They never bothered to explain.
You mean
they never bothered to explain?
They never bothered to explain the horn of fucking Valir until it's found and stolen.
God, I hate the show.
Don't get me started. The utter lack of Tom
but-
Maryland for
but-
world building in the first episodes is just.
But sorry, I went for a bathroom break because I've been drinking too much. But obviously you've got it paused here. You've got a Moraine says there are rumors of Fort Tavir in there. There is no fucking way that this would ever happen in Robert Jordan's world, because you cannot have rumors of Fort Tavir in a place precisely because that implies that they were there long enough to stay there and then had Taviran type effects. Like,
On top of that, like let's also point out that in the actual lore, most people don't know what a Taviran is. If they do know what it is, they think it's like a theoretical academic debate, right? Like this is not a thing that is widely accepted as being a real thing. And to the extent that it is accepted as, it's there are varying accounts of like what it actually means.
Yes.
And so the idea that some freaking wool traders going into the two rivers would be like, oh, there's some Taviran down here, and more specifically that there's 4. like someone's over there.
I went
licking
down
his
to Emmons
finger.
Field trying to sell all of my wool, and I came back with half the price I wanted, and it was probably because of Egwene and Perrin and Matt and Rand, who must be Taviran, and that's why I didn't get all the profits I wanted to. And I got married to this other lady, Days Cognar. Like it's
the counting of 4 just makes me think of like the quest for the Holy Grail. Neither shall the counting shall be 4. It's just who came up with this?
Because Pips, I'm so glad you brought this up, and I'm so freaking sad that this is actually taking so much time, because there's no freaking way we're going to get to Land's ass cheeks by the end of this.
Oh, we'll get to Land's ass cheeks. Never you mind.
Okay, if we have to. But how the fuck do you count the number of Taviran? Because Moraine noted this for a long ass time, that like she knew obviously that Rand, the ginger kind of dragon reborn, was a big fucking deal. But how did she know that?
Give her that much credit.
Well, also,
she didn't know it in the show. She knew it in the books.
In the books,
she knew it in the books, but she had no idea that she would encounter both Matt and Perrin also being Taviran. And Pips, to your other point, being that is this esoteric or obscure? You're 100% right, because Loyal, there's
Loyal cheese. I like it.
Okay. Here's another guy I failed to mention, but there's another nerd out there. I'm going to look this up, and I'm going to give him a shout out in the next review of this. But he said Loyal, and this is a guy who met Robert Jordan, and he got him to sign his Fires of Heaven hardback when it came out. So this is a proper nerd who has been loving the series for a long ass time. But I saw some.
So you're saying not a Masara?
No, it's not Masara at all. This is someone who basically met Robert Jordan, shook the man's hand, feels obliged to point shit out like this. I'm gonna look this up in between our reps, and I'm gonna give him a proper shout out. But he had a couple of different names, like everybody does pronunciation wise. But he said Loyal instead of Loyal, and I thought, you know what, that one's actually better than how it is in the guide and whatnot. So.
Well, I mean, Loyal is how it is phonetically if you take their placement of the apostrophe, isn't it?
There's no apostrophe in there. It's Loial.
IAL.
Okay,
yeah.
I thought it was Lo apostrophe IAL.
I don't think there's an apostrophe, but
okay,
my last
you guys
two
were
read the audiobook. So.
Not in a German version or anything else, but anyways, I'll give the guy the shout out properly later on. But the whole point here is that Pips is completely right in that Loyal is the first one to mention Taviran, and that's at the Queen's Blessing in Camelin, which implies essentially that not everyone, other than particular scholars, knows what the fuck a Taviran is or what.
Yeah, basically, it's like Aes Sedai and Ogiers, and like maybe some nobles who are also sort of interested in history, right?
Yeah, they have access to the royal fucking library at Camelin, or Cairhien. But anyways, there's no frickin' way that anyone could discern 4 versus 2 or 3 or 5 or what was that? 5, sir. Oh, holy hand grenade! Like type of amount of Taviran out there. If you had 2 Taviran together, you would not be able to discern who is affecting what or whatnot. So on the face of it, this line is turbo retarded. But we should move on from that because
Turbo
I
retarded is
honestly
the line
think
for this show.
It is. At best, you could come up with, rumor is there's been some weird shit happening in the Two Rivers. I want to go check it out just in
but
case
it
there's a
wouldn't
Tavern there. Like
because
that is at best.
they've been affecting that shit since they were born. So it only really starts to manifest once they get out of their freaking village. But
I totally.
anyways,
get it.
we're too
I hate
smart
to be
for this.
time cops. I think we got to roll. I just want to point out, look how happy she's so impressed with herself, calling out that freaking 4 Tavern throwaway line. Like she feels good about that.
Which is maybe the most upsetting thing about this. You dumb bitch. If there's rumors of Fort Tavern there, why are you watching this random no-name get murked by Leandrin? Go there. There's Fort Tavern there.
She's known about it for a while,
moron.
but she also heard about some rando guy in unknown ethnicity, Dothraki.
Oh, we'll get to the ethnicities later, but Alex,
okay.
let's just speed us through the next couple of bits.
All
the right age. Oh no! Fuck! Sorry, guys. I need to mention this.
We will hit the
Moraine
age in episode 3 or 4.
No, Moraine has been on her hunt for 20 years, and the only thing she knows is how old it is.
Hey,
she
there
doesn't
you go.
know
The
if it's a
reveal
man
that Paradisen
or a
for
woman.
everyone who's watching at home.
After Earth. This is a BBC special.
We gotta set ourselves up for Paradisen. That'll be in the episode 8, cold open, which was the
Okay, I'm gonna say, Pips, I'm gonna say here right now. Sorry, but Moraine has been on this quest for 20 years, and all she knows is that her quarry is 20 years old. That means she's found out fucking nothing. She is retarded. All right, here we have the fucking waterfalls.
I'm just gonna point out that I don't think a single woman in this scene is wearing wool.
Well, it could be worse. It could be Egwene wearing nylon with elastic sleeves.
We'll get to Egwene and what she's wearing a little bit later when I want to talk about the wet t-shirt contest.
Well, the lack of wet t-shirt contest, really. I mean, it's kind of super fabric that she's got going on there. But
Pips, this is where the CGI budget went, but let's not spoil it for people who haven't seen. Oh, she's so proud of her braid, and now the women's circle of Emmons Field is going to do the most harebrained, mule-headed, manly thing ever done, and fucking throw a woman off a fucking... Wait for it.
I love the CGI river too. Like, could they not find an actual river that had rapids? Like every time it pans out here, like what is that? There are actual rivers they could have filmed this in. This is like a water park that they CGI rocks into.
God, the worst part about this is I watch this scene and I see this, and I'm sitting here. You wasted 2.5 minutes on nothing. Okay. This scene means nothing to
right
the
here.
show.
She surrendered to the river, she surrenders to the power, because that's a critical theme in the book. If you've never read the books,
and they cut out the scene that explains this in the later episodes, but they just left it in here.
All right.
Oh my god.
Hey, Alex, can you pause here?
Yeah.
But before we get to the missing nips. But
actually, I'm gonna keep it going because
I
want to show the missing wound.
Oh, okay. She's panting.
Here
we go. That's good enough. All right. This is actually okay. I've got a number of points to bring up here. Other than
I'm glad that I wasn't the one that would have to say this, because it saved me from getting canceled.
Okay. If we don't have any subscribers, we can't get canceled. Like, come on, guys. But seriously. But here, you can see her legs on the dress. You can see even her wound on her arm.
You can see her compression shorts right here. You can see the white compression shorts she's wearing.
Yep. But you can also she's tugging her braid, which we don't even see Nynaeve do until episode 4. But hey, somebody read the book and they knew braid tugging was a thing, so it's in there, guys. All of you, book.
Let's give her a hat tip.
It's in there.
Oh my fucking god! But let's just get back. I have 2 points that I want to make about this thing, and that is that the women's circle of Emmons Field, first and foremost, would never do something so fucking harebrained and idiotic as throw a woman off a cliff.
You don't think small mountain villages routinely risk their young women to potential death for a nothing ceremony? That's the sort of thing.
Pips, this was brought up in an earlier White Cloaks post, and I honestly hope that the poster of this sees this video and then comments on it and says, "Hey, that was me." But they pointed out how anthropologically societies value young women much more than they value young men, and would never put young women at risk to the extent that they put young men at risk. And in part, that has to do with the biological reality that young men can impregnate hundreds of freaking young women, but a young woman cannot be impregnated more than once.
An absolutely correct statement. And if they had tried to sell this as, okay, we do this because we want to see if any of our young women can channel. We discover if they can channel by putting them in this high stress situation. This is a leftover Manatharan tradition. They were a warrior people. Blah 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 blah. I could have even gotten on board with this.
Well,
But they failed to do
I'm going
so.
to disagree with you. I think
that would have been an add-on. So
if the Two Rivers had been doing anything related to the broader outside world, I mean, sure, Manetheren got it, but they basically had forgotten Manetheren, right? Like they raised sheep and grew tobacco, and like that's what they did.
they got reminded of their history by Moraine.
So the idea that they're doing things that are Manetheren tradition. Now, I could see them trying to pull something like that with this show, to be honest, and like, oh yeah, Two Rivers, it's old Manetheren, and it's like, no, it's not. It's a little farming village in the middle of the woods, which I'm going to bring up on a point later. But yeah, it is.
See, I could.
We're so fucking off time.
I can understand.
I don't want to be time cop.
Oh, good. I'll keep it moving.
All right, it'll be necessary to point out
my final fucking point with the whole cliff diving is that the whole surrendering to Sidar. How the fuck would the women's circle know anything about it? Okay. Anyways, here we got Rand, and he's talking to.
Just quietly making. God, I hate that bow. Okay.
Just quietly making Rand's mom an alcoholic, as you do when you're trying to build up strong women.
See, I disagree. I thought that this was a nice touch. You had to explain that Rand's mom was dead somehow. This was
sure, but you didn't have to say, yeah, she could really drink.
See, again, I took that as a charming compliment.
Okay,
Alex, that's not a charming compliment. Pips, it's not a charming compliment. That's something you say about Dane fucking Bornhall.
Now, I will say,
this episode, this is the best scene. I will agree with that.
So, but here's the other thing, and we're going to get into that. And I know I said that fucking 1,000 times when I was interviewed by Prophet, who everybody who's listening, subscribe to that fucking channel. Okay, the guy's a fucking maniac. He's awesome. But the thing about it is, there was that script that was leaked, and there was a shit ton that was worse, and there was a couple things that were better, and there was one thing that was really a lot better about this scene, which we don't see, and that is the Dark Rider actually shows up in the original script of this fucking scene that we don't get. So there are points and counterpoints, but we get a couple of falling rocks, and Alex, if you play this, you get a ton of terrible shit. Like he throws his bow down. Yeah, God, it's like
okay. First of all, when we say bow, let's just talk about that. Is not a long bow.
He throws it up.
That is not a long bow.
It's not
he threw it away.
The stones. Look at how the stones are only in one line blocking the path. There's no stones behind them or in front of them. The bow is a cheap piece of shit.
I have a better wool sweater than that, but I'm not going to wear it for this. All right, wait, stop here. Pause.
CGI budget blown right
now. Oh, shit. That fucking waterfall, that was CGI. All of this shit. Oh, fuck. You're replaying it. Why?
We can't replay. We could barely go through it once. Come on.
Well, the entire background here, everything not in this main village is CGI. I mean, it's not even good CGI. It's bad CGI.
That fucking waterfall, that shit doesn't exist. And okay,
all right, watch this building right here. Watch this building right here. It's about to come back. Right here. See it? It came back.
Wait, are we? Wine Spring. Okay.
What are we looking for with the building? What was the issue with the
Pause.
building?
Where are we at?
Okay, hang on. I'll run it by you. Okay.
Fucking hell. Maybe we're all watching a different freaking part of the show, but right now I got
see this building with the second floor window and the ladder going up it?
Yep.
See how there's nobody near it? Like there's no wagon, there's no nothing?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see it again.
Oh, wait. Shit, you went
You're going to
past
see it. Nope, right here. See the guy?
Okay.
There's the. He was.
They
There
pulled
were
that
no
wagon
people
up
there.
in about 2 seconds and just started working, man. They're an industrious people. You know?
They are.
Fucking hell.
It's alright. It's not as bad as Egwene freaking teleporting and time traveling later.
Oh, Matt's reappearing chair here is a pretty good one.
All right, so we finally
So
get
Dane,
Matt.
I know you're going to get into the script that was pulled here in a second, but let's just talk here how our main cast is all sitting here drinking like they're just regular pub attenders,
Like they're
whereas in the
us.
kids, whereas in the book they were like, this is the first time they'd ever been allowed to like have any of this stuff. Normally they would have been maybe getting a cup of milk, I think is a line from Eye of the World, right? So they've clearly aged up the cast. To the detriment of the story. I mean, let's be honest here. The idea that these are people with vices is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
See, I could have given them a pass for this if it wasn't for what they're about to do to Matt.
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
Like, this is Jesus. I almost don't even want to play it.
Just do it. We're all drinking here. We're all friends. We'll support you.
God. He's the Dave Chappelle.
Which, by the way, this goes against the book as well. So we actually know that
four
Matt
dice instead of 5.
Matt didn't have the full powers of his luck, but he had always been lucky, right? Like that is something that we know that Matt had actually always been lucky.
Well,
so them setting up here that he wasn't lucky.
It wouldn't have manifested in like if it was tied to his Taviran-ness, it wouldn't have manifested when he was.
But we know from the books because when he's alone trying to escape Tarvalon, I should say, after his recovery in the White Tower, and he first gets like the full manifestation of his luck, he thinks about how like he'd always kind of been lucky, he'd always had that going for him, but it was never like this, right?
Yeah,
so,
it was
so
never 100 tosses of the dice that went his way.
So the idea that
he won more than he lost.
Yeah, the idea that he's a sucky gambler is okay. It's a small
okay, but
see, I could even live with that. From we're going to fix this hypothetically in the next season. It is what they do here to him as far as him like begging for another game, and Randon Perrin establishing that he has no money to gamble with. Like, why did they make him a degenerate gambling addict? That makes no like.
Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. I hate this show.
It's the fucking character assassination.
I love that. You're married, your life is over.
But
classic new age politics right there.
That's because you are married, but from what I know, your wife is probably a better person than you are. I'm sorry. I've only heard her sparingly in comments when she makes fun of you for being a part of this whole Wheel of Time community.
I mean, it's not necessarily hard to do, but yes, that is interesting. You're putting a low bar. Oh, there it is. There's the infamous bracelet.
Just wait until he fucking muff dives her. But no.
Imagine watching this scene
Pips
and realizing that
Pips' wife sounds awesome. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, standing ovation. Here's the girl that does what apparently every girl does, probably multiple times a year. But hey, standing ovation.
This is straight up. Like this is
She's
Rafe
not
Judkins.
clapping. Why isn't she clapping? I didn't get a harumph out of you.
I literally had a friend ask me, "Hey, when the girl shows up, does everyone clap?" And yes.
Dude, this is straight up meta commentary. This is what Rafe Jenkins' mind looks like whenever everyone shows up.
I like that, like when she first shows up, the braid actually isn't even visible.
Right. But they didn't know if she passed or failed.
Like, I mean, let's be honest, right? Like,
can we pause here and say that
just as a visual choice, the braid not being visible, and then I know you're about to say this, but Skinny Bran and Fat Marin, what are we doing?
That's what I was gonna say. Like seriously, fat innkeeper versus skinny innkeeper. Bran Alvear was a fat innkeeper. That's why he was trustworthy. What the fuck are they doing with the show? Anyways, you can keep going. I
swear in Eye of the World, he says it 5 times. That Randall Thor mentally promised that he would never trust a skinny innkeeper.
Yeah, because he met one skinny innkeeper and he was a dark friend. And he wanted to fucking
I think this is actually a subtle
Break them
thing
with
here.
shit.
So we're going to talk about Perrin and his wife later, but I think this is actually Marin is the innkeeper in this situation. That's why
What the
Bran is
fuck?
skinny,
She's not?
Marin's a little heavyset. She's the innkeeper. That's what we've just been told by the depiction.
I don't even.
So
I
the
can't
fat
even give
keeper,
him that much
skinny
credit.
innkeeper thing has basically been turned into an excuse for female obesity. All right, let's
I am
Hey,
not
we call it
touching that.
body positivity, okay?
body positivity. I'm sorry, Amazon. I'm sorry. Don't cancel us, YouTube. It's body positivity. I misspoke.
As
I
a
will
horse,
not even say what I
enjoy
said
a good
before.
full-bodied horse person.
Nay.
Damn it.
All right, Pips, can you fucking forward? All right, sorry, Alex is forwarding us along. Here we go. We've got.
Cheers are all around. Yep. You know, I can
Hey,
appreciate
here-
everyone drinking during the production of this.
Did
I mean,
we
that's what
talk
I would
about how it literally when she walked in, Rand smiled at her, she smiled back, Perrin smiled at
and
her,
they clapped.
then they clapped.
They're all smoking. There's annoying old man, aka Senbui.
do. We're about to have the introduction. We're about to have it right here.
Okay,
Sultry
Alex,
looks across the room.
time it
dressed
because
man.
you did this before.
Oh yeah,
when
no, I got
Lan-
it. I'm gonna
yeah,
time it.
No, well, you don't need to. You don't pause it, whatever it is. Like seriously, Lan shows
11:18.
up here. Yeah, and we're gonna time it out because he shows up with his fucking boots, no spurs, and everyone's like, "Who the fuck
You
is
can't
this?
see.
Who is this 5'9" person in pajamas?
Who is this
Thanks,
person who
Nynaeve.
can't see a thing?
He's got a headband,
Took
although
him
he's got
24
his
seconds
hair.
to introduce himself,
Yep.
and
he
30
also,
seconds to introduce Moran.
He doesn't
No
introduce
pseudonyms.
himself.
Let's just point that out. No pseudonyms, right?
I'm
No.
Lan.
This is Moran. Like, my question is this their standard operating procedure? Like, when they go to every inn in the world, does
No.
Lan walk
Dramatic
in
entry.
dramatically,
Dramatic
wait
entry. Yep.
30 seconds, wait for somebody to ask him his name, give us his name, and then like he's fucking Michael Buffer introducing a boxer? Like,
Okay, Alex, I will tell you this as someone with a modicum of book lore and someone who is back in the 90s on these fucking Wheel of Time FAQs and whatnot, comment forums, and I'm trying to build up my credibility for people who are watching this. But
He's
no,
not just a drunk. He's a well-read drunk.
I'm well read and drunk, but thank you. But no, Lan is not someone who goes around doing this shit. And now I have to ask, wait, what was the fucking question? Sorry.
well, it was more like just the completely absurd dramatics. Like, he walks in, it takes him 20 seconds to take his hood off. Like, what would he have done if just nobody had looked up? If it had just been like, yes, this is a public bar, people walk in. Like,
All
thank
right.
God
Just no one
Nynaeve noticed
acknowledges
it
him.
stopped.
So one of the first things in the books that hints at how Aes Sedai play around with the first oath about not telling a lie. That's not the oath. The oath
You may
is
call me.
the oath is we will not say a word that isn't true.
Mhm.
And it's that kind of play with language that makes these books so fucking great. But it's when Moraine and Lan go to different innkeepers and they don't lie, they say, like Pip said, you can call me Master Andra or you can call me Lady Alice. It's so fucking brilliant the way that Robert Jordan did that and hinted at, because that's a clue for the reader that everything you think
Yep.
you heard from Moraine and Lan, even once you accept that they cannot tell a lie, go back and read. And this is why people reread this fucking series, is to go back, reread, and see when were they trying to deceive? When were they saying to innkeepers and whatnot, you can call me XYZ, because that is not, it might be a lie, but it's not speaking a word that isn't true.
It also ties right into, and this is established very early, that the Aes Sedai don't have a great reputation in the world, right? The people in the village there actually are borderline kind of afraid of them. They think that they're the next thing away from sort of Shadowspawn and Dark Friends, potentially. And then, to the extent they're not afraid of them, they certainly don't trust them.
And here we have this scene where instead of doing something where they're, like you said, kind of playing with the truth a little bit and establishing themselves as someone who the truth you hear may not be the truth you think you hear sort of situation, right? Instead of establishing that, we just have them being, playing open card poker and just laying it all out there. And also, we're about to see the innkeeper's wife basically just say, "Oh, well, right this way, Madam Sadai," right? And it really is a complete inversion of the context that the main characters are supposed to kind of view Moraine as. And the idea, I mean, think of the heavy lift that they end up trying to do to make Nynaeve distrustful of Moraine and to make her dislike her character. Because of the way they set this introduction up, they have to invent a whole new storyline about the Aes Sedai not liking poor people. Like, I mean, it's just, that's the thing. This is why we struggle to keep this dialogue down to a minimum here, is that, like, every single decision that they make has so many ripples, and they're just all terrible.
See, one of the things that just amazes me about this is, people will say, like, um, you know, if you didn't like this, it's because you're sexist. And I'm watching this, and, like, this is the most sexist show in the world. Had Judkins been allowed to write this as is, the women in the village would have known about magic. The men would not have. The women would have been running the village, as we've talked about, Marin the innkeeper, Perrin's wife, the blacksmith. And the women would have had intense knowledge of the outside world, including the Aes Sedai. And the men would have just been morons. If they were
that
even
is what they
granted
wrote. That is what they wrote. Even Perrin is like, "Oh, there's a war going outside," and it was like, "Oh, who told you that?" One of the women. Who actually greets Lan and Moraine? Marin. Who is the blacksmith? Perrin's fake wife. Like, it's already established. Like, that is the world that they wrote.
True. I guess it had he not been forced to dial it back, it would have been even more in your face than it already is.
That's true. We didn't get, and I know Dane's going to bring this up. We didn't get every scene in this series is going to be, for the sort of pleasure of the women. We didn't get that.
We are
that's in the
already
script,
at an hour and 3 minutes. Like,
yeah,
well,
okay.
That's because we had the intro on this episode. It's fine.
That's true.
It is and it isn't, because I fucking timed this, and I think we've got like 19 minutes left for 25 minutes of film, if not more.
We're at 11:51.
We're at 50 minutes of actual review, according to my clock. I think we're
good. Let's keep going, and let's just say here that we got some more shit to go through. Here we go. You know what, Alex? Maybe
Casual
we
stare
should
down.
Yeah. Can you do this at like two times speed?
Can I?
Oh fuck! The fucking ring. I fucking hate this scene. She's like, "Give me a room, and I don't need anyone else." Or sorry, I don't need a second room for Master Andra because he's gonna fucking hot tub with me.
Also, what Aes Sedai would go in and warm themselves by a fire? These are the people who let themselves sweat in the heat because it makes them look weak, and they have the ability to control that.
Where's Marin in that scene? She's right there. She would have been right in the middle of fucking Perrin and fucking Rand, right in that shot, but she hopped out of it for a split second to be in that shot. Anyways.
Maybe she said it to the ones out.
Perrin about to drop some world building and exposition, and Rand/Radionor making sure that we can't.
Dude, I love this. This is the second time a man is about to just be utterly dismissed.
Yeah. Go help your wife, wife's apprentice.
Not just your wife. Your pregnant wife that is working.
Go help your pregnant wife, who is a better blacksmith than you, so you can learn something from her.
Here we go. Here it is. Side shave and everything, right? Side shave.
Is there a side shave?
How many earrings does she have?
There is a side shave.
Oh yeah.
How many earrings?
At least 10.
Have you ever?
I guess that could just be a tight sort of mohawk style bun.
I count.
But it looks like a side shave.
I counted 11 fucking earrings.
Okay, what is the purpose of that leather armband at the very top of her arm?
I don't know. Something
blacksmith related.
She has more earrings than anyone I've ever had make a fucking
and more fingerless freaking gloves.
All right,
dude, the fingerless gloves in this show are incredible.
All right.
Oh, here we go.
Alex, can you stop here?
Now.
just a little bit of pause. And all I'm saying here is that I am somewhat surprised that Matt did not wipe his mouth when he came out of that barn, given the amount of kind
Oh
of
my god, that would have been the funniest thing in the world.
Oh man, given
Especially
what we
because he
know from
wipes
the
his
script,
mouth constantly in the bar
he
anyway.
does do that. But given that we know what he just did in the script, he really should have been.
he was just fucking muff diving for
Oh.
fucking like 20 minutes. Oh, and he got his freaking bracelet. He's feeling all good. And he turned down the like counter offer of getting himself sucked off because this is a fucking Game of Thrones wannabe show. But anyways,
all right, Mom, where's Dad? He's drunk.
Like,
which we can't really fault.
Go on. There is a like. From a writing standpoint, this is the laziest thing because Judkins has talked about like, oh, Matt was underdeveloped, so he wanted to give Matt more in-depth character, and apparently he's a Zack Snyder wannabe.
Which is not even true. Like honestly, I get it. Matt didn't have. I don't think he had any POVs in Eye of the World. I get that. But like we still see a lot of Matt through Rand's lens, right?
Yeah.
And he is just as developed as really any of the other characters except for Rand. And the idea that he's underdeveloped, I mean, like, sure, we see a little bit less of him in this book, but we still learn a lot about him. And it you know, it really blossoms in future books, as we all know. But the idea that like we needed to drastically alter his timeline and his story to kind of flesh him out as a character, like just show us a few of the things that we already know about him if you really need to front load it.
So as far as the books go, Perrin is the only other Taviran that gets a POV chapter earlier on.
Yes.
And Matt gets
they cut that entirely, obviously.
Yeah. But Matt gets his first POV chapter in book 3. But you're absolutely right in terms of getting a character fleshed out. Matt does the whole fucking White Bridge through to Camelin sojourn, which is one of the best fucking stretches of these books. And yes, it's all from Rand's point of view. But anyone who says Matt doesn't get any character development until book 3, I'll fight them. Like Matt is a great character even early on, and maybe he doesn't develop this. And anyone who thinks, oh, he was underdeveloped, fuck off. You should be running this fucking show. That's all I have to say.
So I had 2 questions about it. First of all, like how lazy, like how unimaginative are you that if someone says, okay, I need you to flesh out this character, your instant solution is I need to give him a troubled childhood.
Yeah,
like,
it's fucking lazy as shit.
It's the laziest bit.
Isn't there a meme about that? You know, like all the sort of like comic book and fiction characters. It's like, oh, you know, so and so troubled past. I'm me, troubled past. Me over here.
Yeah, you ready to die, Batman's parents?
It's just, it is so cliche, and it's such an inversion of the character in the books. And
we're gonna get Trip on for probably the next episode or the next after next episode as far as reviews go, but she loves Matt. Let's save it. A lot of things for her as far as how she can go into detail. Well, let's spare like an extra 10 minutes for her actually, as she can go through how Matt was desecrated in this show. And let's move on from here. The only thing, Alex, if you want to run it, is what I want to point out is where in the show. Oh shit! It's actually coming up a little bit later because they're talking about pricks, pig, and time to go home, Mom, before you call your children bitches. Oh, that's coming here. Okay.
So
is Mom sick?
They're right there. So that was it.
No. Here it comes. Watch for the BI double dash.
No, that's what we just saw.
Yeah, Matt shut her up before she would say it.
Yeah, so she when he was throwing her down, said, "I'm fine, you little bit." Already happened.
God damn it!
She calls him a prick.
Well,
Josh, let's just be honest. If I can roll back the clock to when I was watching this on release day, right?
In the script, she called them cunts.
The utter lack of in-world swearing and oaths, inexcusable.
That's a separate thing, but in the script, She called them cunts. Who the fuck calls their fucking 5-year-old a cunt?
Rafe, I guess.
Yeah.
I seriously hope he doesn't have any children.
All right, we're about
I
to see a
don't think
great scene here.
I don't think we have to worry about that, Dane.
This is what we know of responsible parenting, right here. Rand, Egwene, why don't you guys bang in the living room while we leave?
Wait. They bang or finger bang?
I mean, I just assume the worst at this point.
So, like, does that mean 4 fingers or 3?
I think she gave him the shocker.
Fucking hell, man.
You can figure out the mechanics of how that works.
No, I know the shocker, I know the spocker, and I know the rocker.
I mean, based
to be
on
honest,
his behavior in this show, doesn't Rand actually act more like a woman and Egwene act like more of a guy? Like
yeah, okay, it's true.
stereotypical gender roles, like.
Well, here they kiss.
What an awkward kiss. No chemistry right there. Can we just agree to that? That like that kiss did not look like they had kissed before and enjoyed the experience.
See, I actually give Josh a credit here. He's trying so hard.
I mean,
To be attracted.
Rand's character in this show is just try hard.
Oh, that Rand is
hustling. Wait. Here's my pocket strawberry. Has that?
And then she turns it down. She's like, "I'm too good for your shit."
I honestly, I would have
I'll be honest. I was waiting.
Maybe she fingers her with it. Like seriously, like. All right.
Here we
Okay.
go. See, we made it. I'm only at an hour and 40 seconds into our review portion, so I think we're okay.
I got my time cop clock, and I've got 6 minutes left, and we got Land's ass.
Land's hairless, naked mole rat of a body.
Could be warmer.
Hey guys! Guess what? Moraine can do magic.
She's gonna heat up that hot tub.
Hey,
this would be a much bigger moment had they not shown that Leandrin can do magic in the prologue that they added later.
This is the second time that we've seen magic with no weaves, and they should have stuck with that.
Yeah, but because we didn't even get to see her nips, man. Like,
well, I mean that's because this the male gaze, right? Like you can't have that.
Says you're a horse. Like, what the fuck do you care?
All right, I think they straight up banged, not finger banged, because she's clearly doesn't have.
No. But you have to remember, if you pause here,
I do want to know where he's coming from. Like she's still in the common room. He's coming from somewhere else, saying, "You let me fall asleep." Where did they bang? Like, did they go upstairs?
Yeah, like
right next to his parents or her parents' room, do it there, and then she left them?
Oh, well, we don't even know if she actually banged, or if Rand was just that clever with his fingers, right?
Well, the implication of that she let him fall asleep, at least to me, indicates that they banged, and Rand is the sort of dude to fall asleep after sex. Which
we see that with Lan later too. So like the women getting dressed and leaving is a theme in the show.
You've never obviously tried to finger bang a lady, a proper lady like Egwene, who is.
Well, as you said, I'm a horse, so hooves problematic, and I'd appreciate you giving me a little bit of latitude on that.
Clearly, you've never tried to hoof bang a mare of his team breeding before.
This is going to turn into a couple of memes, but in essence, yes.
That's not true. There are no memes about this show. Nobody watched it or cared enough to make any.
No, what I'm saying is that I'm going to make some hoof bang memes now that you mentioned it.
Excellent choice.
Oh, man.
But fucking hell. I'm sorry. Yeah. So, hoof banging. Maybe Rand just used his right hand to hoof bang Egwene, and maybe it took 3,000 reps in order to get her off, and that's why he was so tired. That's all I'm saying.
The last thing I want to do on this rewatch Yeah, the last thing that I want to do on this rewatch is try and imagine the mechanics of what these two actors were doing.
Hoof banging.
Which made of all
3,000
the
reps.
shitty, like we were talking before about like pretending to be something you're not, pretending to be a better show. Uh, I feel
Yeah.
like Game of Thrones never pretended to do this. Like if you were going to do this, they were going to show it. So this classy cutaway bullshit, you can't
I mean,
pretend to
honestly,
be
that's a
Game
good
of
point, right?
Thrones
Like the
and
books,
classy cutaway.
the books were the classy cutaway type, right? The books were, and I get that they can say, well, that's the way the author handled it, and we wanted to stay true to that aspect and not over sexualize it or whatever. Which I don't believe that at all. I think that clearly they just didn't have the balls to do what they wanted to do. Because like, look at this. I mean, we saw Lan's ass right before this, right? And yet here we are.
I
Like
got a
it's the
hairier ass
cutaway,
than Lan. Like, fuck's sake.
and it's just
I
like
probably got 3 inches on Lan, and I got a fucking hairier ass.
I'm
Like,
fascinated.
all right, we
How-
don't need
how
to be
the-
talking about how many inches you have on land.
That's
on
racist.
the other side, I probably got 7. But anyway. Anyways, I'm sorry. He fucking
Daniel
showed
Henney
up
is
in
6'2"?
pajamas. But what the fuck? No fucking way.
That's what the Google machine says.
I mean, I feel
Yeah,
like
okay.
that's when, if any of you guys were in high school and you, saw like either played football or saw the sort of stats the football team was putting out, and everybody was 6+ and 200 pounds, and then you're like, nah, you aren't.
I played hockey. I am not intimidated by anybody that played football.
Well, yeah, we're gonna have to get off of this topic if we're gonna.
I
end
got a
this
fucking stick,
properly.
and I could fucking kill you with that, dude.
let's
Anyways,
move on. Let's move on.
God damn it! I hate the show.
I will point out. So she came down from upstairs wherever they banged or hoof banged, and he
Fucking
put
hoof
pants
bang.
on. She just wrapped herself in a blanket again to hang out in the living room of her
Oh
parents'
fuck!
house.
If you got a bunch of hoof
'cause
prints
why?
on your fucking minge, like you're not gonna want to fucking. That's tender shit.
But
And
I like how her
who,
wound is already
she's like,
healed.
it's fine. My parents, I forgot to bring that up earlier. I pointed out that she was wounded in the river, and then it's healed because why?
What's even worse,
I mean, presumably, maybe the original script had Nynaeve healing it. Maybe I can't
No.
recall, but
she heals fast. That's exactly why they wanted to get her hoof banged by Rand.
Well, that's the worst part about
And
this is not only
it's
do they
scarred
get it
over,
wrong
too.
once, they get it wrong twice because there are times they forget to put either the wound makeup or the healed makeup on, and then there are times that they put the healed makeup on. So I mean,
I
they
love
don't
it.
even
He's going to
consistently
bed
get it
now.
wrong.
He's going to bed. Notice he's walking in a different direction than he came from.
Yes, and he's going towards the outside. Which, frankly, this
Fuck
is the most
this show.
based thing Rand has done. Is just be like, "Fuck you, I'm out of here." Like, if you're not gonna be my girlfriend, then I'm leaving.
And here we go. Here we go.
Okay, all right.
The appearance of the rider, right? Which Nynaeve and Lan don't feel. This is the dumbest.
No warning, and here we go. Not only does he not have eyes, he doesn't have a nose. All right, okay.
Okay, stop it there. Stop it there.
That's
How
it.
great would it have been if they had just had
Alex,
like that ride in, and then Lan and Moraine sense it, and then go outside into the rain and nothing is there, right? Like they would have just a little tiny second, and it would have been consistent. And instead, they're like, fuck it, it'll be fine. The disrespect and lack of appreciation for the intelligence of the audience is basically this whole show. They're like, the audience is too dumb to realize how inconsistent and stupid this is.
Straight up, the show was written at like a 4th grade level.
If you watch
Except
this
when
show
it's
and
not.
don't feel personally
you're giving
insulted,
too much credit to 4th graders. Like,
if you can watch this show and not feel personally insulted, I mean, I don't know what you're doing. Like, I'm watching this show, and it's like, you, the person making this, thinks I am the dumbest person that's ever existed.
and here's the thing: if you've read The Wheel of Time, anyone under an IQ of 110 gave up after book 2. The only people who fucking kept through it, read through it all, they've got to be above 110. And the ones that have read more than twice, 3 times, read the different fan theories, etc., they're at the upper echelon. That's your market.
I don't think we need to be elitist about this. I think that if you look at the number of millions of copies sold, there are plenty of just average Joes who have read this book, and that's, I think, what makes this so offensive, is that this is an accessible series. It takes a
Yeah,
lot of
but
time. It takes a lot of time and investment to be able to develop, but it is something that anybody can grasp, understand, and appreciate. And they looked at that and they were like, I mean, I'm too dumb to understand this, so the audience is clearly too dumb. Like, that's what they were doing. Like, the people making this were too dumb to get it themselves, and so they dumbed it down to a level they could understand, and we're all left here saying, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, and I think you're 100% right. Dane, you talked earlier about how, on the rewatch or on the rereads, you catch more and more and more. And I can't
yeah.
help but think with the advantage of a visual medium, how many hints, how many pieces of foreshadowing are in like just a casual description of what somebody is wearing or like what they're
Yeah.
doing casually.
So,
Like this could have been the ultimate Easter egg show when it comes to predicting this stuff. And
oh,
instead
for
they couldn't
fuck's
even
sake.
do Gossip Girl right.
Again, I go back to not a single person wearing wool clothing. One of the criticisms of this series that some people make is that he's too descriptive. And instead of like, well, we can trim like 30% of the book length by just having a visual medium and just
And they
showing
ignored
you
his
those
descriptions,
things.
for fuck's sake.
Instead they were like, let's throw all of that out and just make it generic garbage looking costumes. Like, these don't look like clothing. They look like costumes, and not even good costumes. Like, if someone showed up at Comic-Con with this, you'd be like, yeah, man, you're not in the running.
Yeah, like I could put on my fucking winter coat and strap on my freaking hair mark sword that I bought from Relics, and be like, "Hey, I'm an Ashaman." No, wait, I good for, but no one fucking does that. Like, and the level of fucking autism that he demonstrated. Like, let me say that I love James Oliver Rigney as an author, and the amount of influence he's had on my life, on my writing, on world building, on when you're a 14 or 15-year-old boy and you're not happy with your world and what you want to do is escape. He made a world that I wanted to escape in. The amount of love that fans like me and others have for this world, he, it's difficult to express. And
I mean, there's a
to
reason that 20 years later people are rereading this series.
I've reread them for 20 years.
Yep.
And
The lack of
there
respect and the lack of effort is troubling.
there are few people that had this kind of impact on my life, and it's indirectly. And he died before I could ever go out and meet him or shake his hand or say to him what kind of impact he had. And then I see, and turning back, it's early on when I'm reading this, being like, "Hey, this would be a fucking great show." Especially after Lord of the Rings comes out, and you're like, every fantasy show imaginable could do kind of what was expected, and you're looking forward to something like this, and someone to do it properly with honesty, and with respect, and then they do something like this. I'm sorry, I get a little bit emotional every once in a while. I know the whole modus operandi behind this is to make fun of this and hope that it gets canceled at some point. But I honestly hope that this channel, our reviews, maybe people pick this up, sub to us, get Alex a shit ton of money because this thing gets millions of views, and because of the cratering of the fucking value of this IP, because of how they've desecrated it at Amazon, we could pick it up for the cheap. Maybe in the 2030s, 2040s, we can try again and
Do a
get something
Kickstarter.
properly done.
I think honestly,
Kickstarter plus
you say
seed
getting overly
financing.
emotional, but I think actually perfect segue into what Alex started us off on. Clearly, I've had too much to drink. What he started us off on in terms of how did we arrive with the amount of investment that we did into this as the product. So we just did our first episode recap. Alex, I mean, where are you at? You're I think the most technical viewer probably or reviewer that I've seen in terms of the things that you wrote on White Cloaks. Some of the things that you call out in terms of the detail of cinematography, costume design. Anyone who hasn't read your post on White Cloak should. But where are you at after this review? Did it make you more mad?
yes and no. I mean, yes, it's made me more mad in the sense that, um, you guys are so passionate about this, and it's such a phenomenal series, and such a phenomenal franchise that seeing the impact that it could have had, and how badly short of that it fell. That genuinely does trouble me. The part about this that I have a hard time with is this failed on every level. Like normally when you talk about something bad, like say the Star Wars sequel trilogy, people can they'll at least say things like, oh well, it was very visually pleasing. It was the cinematography was great. Even if the writing was god awful, it at least looked good. This you can't say that about. There's cinematic flaws all over this place, or all over the show, on top of the writing just being complete trash. Like I walked through this scene by scene, and I went through and I picked out sort of every story beat that each scene tries to come up with, and I came up with 77 for this episode. And there were only 32 of them that had I been doing this, I would have left both in existence and in its current spot. It misses so hard, and it misses for so many reasons. Trying to be new age politically correct, and that's annoying enough. But it like almost the most interesting part of this show is trying to figure out did did a particular failure happen due to inexperience, or did it happen due to a lack of talent, or a lack of respect for the audience, or political correctness gone amok. Like that is actually, in my opinion, maybe the most valuable thing that has come out of this should be shown in universities as to how not to produce something. Like when I say it fails on every level, I'm not exaggerating. It fails everywhere.
And that's probably the most apropos thing anyone has ever said ever. So we're gonna do this next week, picking up from Pat Fane rolling in, getting his
Who's definitely not Gandalf, and is definitely not going to be greeted by a group of children running behind his wagon.
For sure,
yeah,
definitely not that.
Because we definitely didn't just ape this from a much better franchise.
Fucking hell.
I would just like to point out that all of our criticisms, everything that we've been talking through here, is all related to what the show did to the story, what the show did internally to their attempt to tell the story. So, consistency with the lore established in the books, internal consistency with the show itself, which is almost so inconsistent it's hard to even articulate that as an argument. Like they're more inconsistent than consistent, and not I don't think a single thing that we made as a criticism of this first lead in to episode 1 here. I don't think we raised, and we didn't talk about what we were going to say beforehand. I mean, like we literally are watching this and just talking through things that we've discussed in the past, but also as it just kind of hits us on this rewatch. Nothing that we brought up was any of the stuff that White Cloaks was criticized for, maligned with in terms of our motives, and ultimately banned for. So anyone who wants to say, impugn our motives here, we are looking at this show from in-world and within the show itself. And like you said, it fails on every level. It's just within itself is not a good adaptation, and is not a good show. And I can't tell you how much I wanted to watch this show. I wanted to like this show. I told Dane this back on the old White Cloaks forum, and he may not remember this, but I later apologized for the viewership numbers for the show itself, because I think I watched each of these first couple episodes multiple times, hoping to like it. And I probably propped up their ratings numbers.
Yeah, if I didn't remember it, it's probably because I was fucking shit-faced like I am now. And that's probably a good way to end this freaking review of episode 1. So everybody seeing this online, fan-fucking-tastic. Hope you guys subscribe. Hope you guys give us a like. Hope you guys check out all the freaking great reviewers we mentioned at the outset. Prophet of the Dragon, Salty Texas Sea, Shad, who has Shadiversity and Night's Watch, and especially Disparu. If you guys want more Wheel of Time content, check those guys out. And especially if you want more in-depth, shitty fucking drunk-ass reviews from us three, plus what we hope, special guests going forward, subscribe, like, give us some money, because our ambition at the end of the day is to get enough money in a bank account to buy the fucking rights from Amazon after they torpedo the market value of this, of course, so we can do a proper fucking adaptation of the greatest story that I've ever read. Boys?
Yep. Have a good night, guys.